define inside of the access point which language, which input that you'd like to have. Again, on the back of the unit, your 3.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve, and then your micro USB as well. You do have a menu as well built into the device by pressing the two wheels in and on the left side of the screen. There it goes. Yeah. It'll get you into a menu, and this is how you quickly and easily change the role of that unit as well. So. So built into that, if somebody says, hey, I need to be able to quickly swap to a different access point, you can go to this menu and select a new access point. You can also boot this up in an instance where it scans and it won't directly connect. So if a tech needs to assign these units every time they come out of say, a storage closet, they can simply come into the room, drop the battery into the unit, and then select which access point to join whichever meeting. We also have, for security's sake, the capability of locking those SSIDs down. And the way that the wireless LAN, the WLAN technology works in the device is that it does not see other Wi-Fi, traditional what we call Wi-Fi devices, and those devices cannot see our access points. So this, from a security standpoint, you're not going to be able to fire up your phone and see our device on the air to try to hack it. So that's MXCW. If there are no questions, we will continue on to MXC. Is this familiar to anybody that has used this or designed this at all? A few people laughing, starting to sweat. So the old 6000 series components, we have, of course, we purchased DIS, I don't know, 7-8 years ago now, and we've now updated this line into these new core products. Refined it, cleaned it up, given it a little more modern look, as well as updated the hardware on the devices as well. So these will be the simplified product lines going forward. We are working on a customization program. We're not quite ready. It's in the baking process to talk much about it, but you will be able to do some modifications, mainly to the finishes, the looks of it, in certain custom applications. So this should look familiar. The CCU from 5900, same CCU. So again, trying to minimize SKUs. We are going to allow you to expand this up to 3,800 participants. The largest system we've got out there now, I believe, is around 3,000-ish. Yeah, so a few people in one room at a time. Base, you get 4 channels of interpretation, just like we saw earlier with that built-in GUI, basic control. We saw the 8 ins, the 2 outs. And when we talk about power to 50 units, that's a rough estimate. Cable length does play into that. So we do want to take that into account if we are doing a sizable system. And of course, what's new to MXC is going to be a redundancy feature on it. What you do need to know is that if you're looking at an MXC product, the FL6000 is required for MXC delegate units. You add this feature license to the CCU, and it becomes an MXC/6000 CCU. Quick overview of the 3 portable units, the 620, 630, and 640. You'll see that they all share a near same feature set. When you get to the biggest transition is 5-button voting, and of course the LCD display, which is exclusive to the 640. 620 and 630 flush units share the same feature set as the portable units, just simply in a permanent install which by the way, we do have on the back table. You're welcome to take a look at. These will be the modular units, which are also in this flush mount line. If you just need a simple podium microphone without a speaker into the DCS LAN system, this is where the MXC MIU-FS would be chosen. And then the -FL has the speaker built into it. What makes these a little more unique than the other ones is just the simplicity of the devices. And then the MXC MIU to your right is the actual processor for them. They connect with standard HDMI cabling. Unlike the previous DIS line, you had a fixed length of cable on this, so this makes it a little easier, and especially for long-term servicing and troubleshooting. You can simply swap out if you get a bad cable. It's not a big deal to find a new one. Interpretation unit, if you're doing really more than 3 channels of interpretation, you would want to look at the MXC IC. This is a European ISO certification that we have been certified to. So it's a cool unit, not necessarily something that you're going to see a lot of here in the States. Again, this should look extremely familiar from the MXCW line. Same 5 microphone options. And the MXC sign that we've got seated up here at the front. This is an e-paper sign. I think somebody referred to it as a digital etch-a-sketch. We simply print to it from DCS LAN is how it gets its power, as well as the Software 6000 or a CU. Inside the CU, you can write to this device. The beauty is, once you write to it, if you don't need to change it, you simply pull power and you're able to take this. So for folks that may need to write to these signs to prep for a meeting, that can simply be done in an office somewhere, and then they can be packaged up and moved into the facility without having to connect back to them.
Any backlight to that?
No backlight. We do, well, on the sign as well, you will be able to do a dual delegate function as well that will show up, and that's done exclusively through Software 6000, and there will be future, there's going to be a few other things that we'll add that allow you to write in a couple different ways to it and maybe a couple different things. So, cool piece. Again, DCS LAN cabling, just like 5900, same cabling, same model numbers. We do highly, highly recommend that you use our cabling when using the MXC system. So up to 250 units, a standard feature license 6000 will give you an MXC system. If you do need to step up to anything over 250, you will need the additional feature license for that to scale it all the way up. And then a couple other interpretation options. Again, you get 4 built in, but if you need more than 4, then you would step up to either an 8, 16, or 31. Similar to 5900, user interface, browser-based, simply web over to the IP address, and this gives you the capabilities to do seat naming, your LAN setup, your audio control as well. If you do need to personalize the meeting, if you are looking for any type of CDA, which is a display capability out of the system, agenda management, vote exporting, this is where we'll step into Software 6000. Now, the good news is on the left-hand side were the original SKUs. Somebody got really smart and said, how about 8 instead of 28? So what you see in the top section is Software 6000. That is what is included in the base package. And then these are just simply add-ons that you can, as you need more capabilities of the software in order to make your MXC components work to what you need, you just simply add those on. What it includes in the software package is a CAA. This is just simply the management tool that you're going to use to set the meeting up, create the databases, and add folks to the meeting and add agenda items. The CUA is the actual user interface. So the folks that use the CAA, which would be more of your technical level, you give the chairman or you give the clerk the CUA, and it simplifies that look. You no longer have to be in a more intensive view of the CAA. And then there on the right is all the parts and pieces and things that we can control and set up. Things like a mimic or a synoptic layout, so we can see visually in the room who's speaking or who's asking to speak or whose mic, or if we need to turn a mic on. Some other things, if you do need more than one person to set these meetings up, you can add additional CAAs. If you need extra chairmen and other delegates to be able to see and control this meeting or view locally on a PC, you just simply add CUAs. And of course, CDAs is if I need my agenda displayed inside of the chamber, but maybe I need the agenda displayed as well in another area, I simply add a CDA license per screen. And of course, vote options, advanced options, and this really gets into deeper dive control, API control with third-party systems. So this is what you'll normally need is in that Software 6000 package. If you get into an intense legislative, capital system, you're probably looking at a lot of these add-on modules. The good news is, after looking at all of this stuff, we have folks here, our market development, as well as systems support within this facility that can help you design and plan those systems out as needed. So again, just at a glance, DCS LAN to the left, so all of our MXC components will always be connected via the DCS LAN. You'll never have an interpreter's console or a name sign on your network. And likewise, your Software 6000 database PC, as well as the web browser PC, that will always live on your enterprise network. If you swap those computers to the DCS LAN, you may need to send it in for service after a little bit of a voltage shock to it. So again, just a few examples of City Council. Again, participant ID. We need folks to be able to sit where they want, come into a meeting, you drop an NFC card in, the system recognizes you, who you are, and that way you pop up in the CUA at the chairman's desk and he can see that, hey, Mr. Smith is talking in the room. If we do need to manage the agenda and we need to be able to have documentation that is historical documentation to take away, we can take this agenda, record the agenda, and then export it, and recorded voting. If we need to be able to find out who voted what, when the vote was taken, and if there was any type of a revote done, this is where we would add to the Software 6000-vote feature to the system. For a little bit larger scaled up conference, say we're doing an international where you need roughly 28 channels of interpretation, you would then add the feature license 6000 with the 31. Again, agenda voting, but it's basic voting where we just maybe just need to display the vote, but we don't need to export it or record it. Then we don't necessarily need to buy the additional vote feature. And of course, display the agenda. This is where you would add an SW6000 CDA piece. And again, for smaller rooms like this, you're able to use that NFC. We've actually had a lot of people interested in NFC even with the wireless delegate units. So the units move around, folks move around, a multi-day meeting, and the chairman just simply wants to see, who is speaking, or the chairman wants to turn someone's mic on. You can do that via the interface. And again, really basic voting, 1 or 2 channels of interpretation. You're not going to be purchasing Software 6000. Do we have folks that do system design? Okay, so system design, we talked about cable length being a part of the equation of how many units we can get on our system. No fear, back in the day, you had to do a rough CAD drawing and then send it to us, and we sent it to Copenhagen, and they ran it through MathLab and said good or bad. and then they said bad, and then you had to start all over again. This is now online. It is in beta version, but this will allow you to select the CU, select which product line, whether that's 5900 or MXC that you're going to attach to the CCU, and then your cable lengths. So if you know what your chambers is and what your rough length between each device is, this is a quick way to do a system design and proof test that you've got enough power supplies. You're not going to have any issues with it. So neat little tool that is open to the public. For folks that always ask about the pricing, here's just some rough map pricing of all the devices. Software 6000 pricing on parts and pieces. So, you know, if you go into Software 6000, you know, you're really adding about 3,000, but what you're going to get is really the about 30 years of software that's been built for the conferencing market. That is probably one of the most robust, flexible softwares out on the market. And then just a quick estimate when you're looking at system cost overall. So that is MXC. Any questions? You can't ask one in the back. You're not allowed. Well, if there are no more questions, my friend Chris Neiman, who is
That's a stretch.
yeah, I know.
Friend?
Friend is a strong word. Christopher will lead us here in a product demonstration. We actually have a mock city council meeting set up to actually go through and actually see all of this stuff working and functioning.
So something that we keep throwing on MXC and MXCW all the time. Microflex Complete is the full name of the product line. Complete meaning complete mic and speaker all in one. And in the sense of the wireless system, really is complete. With the access point and the wireless system, you don't need a laptop. You don't even need setup. It works out of the box, which I'm sure was brought up. So it really is a complete AV solution. For just room reinforcement, good to go. If you needed to do AV conferencing, simple connectivity to your hard codec, your soft codec, now you've got a conferencing product. So just wanted to point that out of the name, Microflex Complete. Again, just further continuation of our Microflex line.
Okay, so, okay. You know, we had to have a script. We want to, you know, we got to follow some kind of order here because we're the most unorderly bunch you'll find. And we kind of want to make it a little lighthearted. So hopefully there's a couple lines in there you might laugh at a little bit. Hell, you might laugh at us more than you laugh at the script, and that's fine too. The point is to get a look at what's going on. So I'll describe real quick. On these screens, you're actually seeing a CUA, a Conference User Application, and that is what our city clerk has. He will be controlling that, and as you glance back and forth, You'll see him hitting different things there, calling up different meetings and such. Over my right shoulder here is a CDA. This will be displaying information like who's speaking, is there a request to speak list, and who that is there speak timers, maybe what the vote is. We'll take some votes. Over my left-hand shoulder is our camera package. Looks like I'm so glad I'm an audio guy, because that looked way better earlier. It's like the sun's going down or something. Anyway, this is not our system. This is a system from a company called One Beyond. And there's lots of other camera tracking packages out there. This one happens to be built. It's friendly with Shure product, so it makes it quick and easy to interface with our system. So there's 3 cameras here, and one in the back. Those get fed to the One Beyond computer camera switcher thing that's doing all the fancy stuff.
That sounded technical.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to get into my mayor role right now.
That was like a gigawatt thing in there somewhere.
Yeah. And then, so that gets handed off, and we're feeding it a Dante stream off of our system here. Gets married up, and it's shipped off to the internet. You'll see there's a little bit of lag with video. That's because we're audiots and not vidiots. We're also live streaming currently right now, as you can see on a computer in the back, to a private YouTube channel as well. That seems to be a pretty popular thing for municipalities, city clerks, city government, that type of thing. Okay? So with all that in mind, go easy on us, and we'll try to be somewhat entertaining while you watch what's happening with all this stuff. Okay? Here we go. See, that was easy. What was that so hard? Thank you, Mr. Mouse. These are pretty fancy. How did you know how to do that anyway?
I went to the training.
All right, training, schmaining. I thought that was just paid vacation time. Anyway, what I was really wanted to say is I wanted to thank Mr. Roger Rabbert over here for that very beautiful interpretive dance that you did during our national anthem. I appreciate that. But maybe we should just get on with the agenda here for the rest of the day.
All right. We ready to kick this thing off? Then get a mic turn.
Ever hear that councilman's better seen and not heard?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, your mic turned on. How'd that happen?
Oh, gee. I wonder how that happened.
Well, I can tell you, I have control over microphones from the software.
Wow.
Would that be on the Mimic? That
He's-
is amazing.
It's way too much control. I don't think you deserve that much control, city clerk.
All right, all right. Should we get down to business here and look at proposal
Let's get on with it.
617? All right. Proposal 617, which reads, "No person shall attempt to sell pickles that do not bounce when dropped from 1 foot and are therefore unfit for human consumption."
Yeah, you know, it's most unfortunate. I ate a bad pickle just now. It came from a bad pickle rustler that were selling their pickles around here. Anyway, it just didn't have the right crunch. Can you believe it? A pickle with no crunch?
We would like to open up the floor for discussion, please.
It's awesome. Hey, wake up.
Sorry, what?
Leaning a little too close to your mic and you're snoring again.
Ah,
Give
well,
you some coffee?
these things are so boring, these
I
meetings.
got a good Cuban connection back here for some coffee. You'd like some? No?
No, we're good. Thank you. I'm fine.
All right.
Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, you just keep nursing that hangover, okay?
Okay.
Mayor,
Yeah, yes, sir.
you should have went to the training.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
Is there any public discussion on proposal 617?
Sure, I'd love to talk about Proposal 617. I have something very important to discuss today.
Can you keep it brief? How about 30 seconds? Go.
Okay, are you going to start a timer?
There's no need to start a timer because when you started talking, it automatically activated a timer, as you can see on the screen.
This fancy
Oh,
schmancy.
great. Well, now I have 5 seconds, 6 seconds. So all I will say is we should have food freedom. Thank you.
Food freedom? What the heck does that mean? Isn't this just a debate? Okay. What do you got to say?
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to take the floor. This is a forum. Comments have been recorded. And are there any other comments?
Wait, does that mean food should be free? Or does that mean we're free to eat what we want? I'd agree with that anyway. Bacon double cheeseburgers for me, please.
It's whatever you want it to be, Mayor.
That's right.
With no further discussion, the council will now vote on Proposal 617.
All right. Those in favor say aye.
There's no need for verbal recognition. We can do this through our touchscreens. If participants would help us out here, just tap your screen and give us your vote.
More buttons. What do I do?
You need to pick either yes or no or abstain, Mr. Mayor.
That seems pretty simple. It's just right there, yeah. Wow. Got it. Okie dokie. Are you serious, Councilperson 2? Mr. Billy Goat? Are you serious?
Yeah, well, I voted no because I don't like the idea of eating a pickle that's been on the floor.
Well, I'm sure they would clean it up first.
Yeah, but the bounce might have squashed it.
So I guess what you're saying is you're still a nay?
Nay.
Thank you, Mr. Goat. All right. I guess the ayes have it. No, yeah, the ayes have it.
Proposal 617 passes.
All right, let's move on to Proposal 618, which reads, "It is hereby deemed a felony and therefore illegal for anyone to knowingly poach a Sasquatch in the county with a fine of $1,000 and up to a year in jail." We again open the floor for public discussion.
With all due respect, councilors, and this is completely unnecessary and would further hurt this community economically. We get a lot of curious folks walking around the woods out there, heavily armed, and looking for that Sasquatch. It's for their own protection, though. If they ever did run into that hairy beast, he could rip their arms right off while they're just trying to take a picture of him. So, you know, if someone did kill a Sasquatch, they'd get way more than $1,000. So the fine doesn't make any sense at all. So it just wouldn't stop people.
Alrighty then. I guess those are some valid points. Is there any other input from the floor? No more comment? I've got another comment.
Yes, I'm an animal activist. Thank you, Council, for taking the time for this important vote. It's very important that we protect our endangered species. Sasquatch are notoriously shy and just want to be left alone. I personally think all cryptozoologists should be banned from the county, but this proposal is a step in the right direction.
Very good. Some good points. All right, are we ready for a vote? There's no further comment. Let's take a vote.
Participants?
Seriously, what is with you, Mr. Goat?
Well, I just find it funny that everyone else agrees with me on the floor because that's not in our script, but there you go. Sasquatch don't exist. That's why I voted no. I don't know about these good people here.
Well, that's a matter of your opinion.
Look, actually, after decades, centuries even,
You know
no
what?
evidence of such a creature.
After decades, I'm tired of listening to you. I'm glad it's all settled, though, because no matter how the vote turned out, it's common sense won the day. Anything else on our agenda, City Clerk?
Nope.
Well, I guess we should adjourn this meeting.
This meeting has been streaming live, as you were told, and I'm also going to make a recording of the votes and post that online.
All right, I guess we're adjourned. There it is.
Thank you for your participation.
Yes.
You
Thank you
screwed
for
up our vote completely.
suffering through it. Very good. So, are we? Yeah, we're still in. Let's stay in this meeting for just a moment before we.
I'll stay in that meeting?
Yeah, before we move on.
Shall I go back?
No, that's okay. All you did was clear the signs, right?
No, I stopped the meeting.
Okay.
So as we're talking up there, guys, if you didn't want to come back and take a listen back here, you can put on those headphones that are back here, and you can hear what it sounds like on the far
Start
end
that back up.
after it's gone through.
Start that same meeting back up again.
First thing you're going to notice is the video actually matches.
Let's redo it.
So, just to kind of walk through what you saw, maybe what you saw happening. Aside from a bumbling, fumbling mayor that didn't go to any training, he doesn't know what he's doing. It hits way too close to home. Anyway, first we started a meeting. So Scott's got several options there in the upper left-hand corner, different meetings that are available. You could think of this as like, for instance, on Monday nights the city council meets, on Tuesday nights the Parks and Rec meet, on Wednesday night, whatever. So we can have meetings logged in and set up ready to go. We'd start the meeting, and all of the configuration for the system is ready to go. In this configuration, for instance, if you were to try to talk, when you press your talk button, you would go into the request to speak queue. So go ahead and somebody press their buttons. You'll notice that you should go into the request to speak, and that thing just continues to populate more and more and more. You'll also notice it's showing up here. This is typically what we would all be seeing, right? City clerk can see this. We gave them the ability to turn the system, the mics on and off as well. And so when I couldn't figure out how to turn my mic on at one point, one of the things that Scott did was he went to a mimic. So now you can see that this is a graphic that can be imported, and you build around whatever the thing looks like. It could be a picture. And a request to speak is green, a mic that's active is red, and he can turn on and off microphones anywhere in the space at this time through Mimic. Okay. What else did we do? We took a vote. Votes can be all kinds of different things. We did simple 3-button voting, yes, no, and abstain. But because the system was really created in Denmark and it gets used heavily in all kinds of different voting environments, it's actually quite insane to hear about the way other countries vote. Ah! I'll take care of that. Stop. Okay. Here we go.
So just on that number of voting options, there's a DIS system in the Georgian Parliament in Tbilisi. They've in their national laws, I don't know, whatever. There's 31 different types of vote they have to undertake to achieve anything, apparently. Now, I don't know what that's based on in terms of it's a different type of vote as to how long, whether it's a timed vote, it can only stay open for a certain amount of time. Can people change their mind once they've voted? Is it shown publicly what the decision is, or is it's kept secret until the final vote's in? Is it only the chairperson who can see it? And if he likes what he sees, then he sends it out to the broader environment. But the system's been built up so we can have multiple voting types in there. Maybe you can only vote if there's over a certain percentage of people in the room. Otherwise, it doesn't count. So there's lots of things you can do with it.
Yeah.
If you've got nothing better to do but make up new ways of voting.
I love it. So I think for us here in the U.S., most of the time it's going to be a 3-button vote, or maybe a 5-button weighted vote kind of thing. I think Australia wanted, they just wanted 2 buttons. It's a yes or no. You can't wimp out and say abstain. So the vote, by the way, the hardware, I think it was probably mentioned in the presentation, the hardware on its own, you can vote. You can do ad hoc voting. If you want to record it or display votes or anything else, that's where Software 6000, the CDA, comes in, okay? The agenda, as you saw us going through the agenda step by step, that was all created beforehand, and Scott simply would just go from point to point to point. When we got to where it needed to vote, it would start the vote automatically. So the user, whoever the city clerk is or manager, whoever's running that position, has a very simple, easy clean interface. And by the way, even the layout of that interface can be changed to meet whatever desires the person running it has.
Can you import an agenda from like a Word doc or whatever, so you don't have to?
Yes, yes, you can.
You can.
Yeah. What else did we do? I think those are the main topics, or the main things that we worked through. Oh yeah, speech timers. Thank you. So the speech timers were set up beforehand because we knew in our structured meeting we knew that people that came to give public comment only had a certain amount of time. However, it's not inflexible. You saw what happened the way we have it set up. You probably saw it flashing red at some point, but the mic didn't go off. We could have shut it off. You could say, hey, once the timer's up, turn the microphone off. You could do that. Scott can even add time.
Could someone just request to speak, please?
Oh, sorry, I just
That's right.
turned you on.
That's okay. Well, so you see, when one of you guys is requesting to speak, you're getting 30 seconds on the floor as pre-allocated time. Councillors have got 2 minutes. The chairperson has actually no timer against him. We let him mumble on all day. God bless him.
That's the way it should be.
That can all be set up individually. That could be tied to a person's role in the meeting. So maybe a secretary has less time than the councillor, has less time than the mayor, has more time than a general townsfolk, whatever. We could pause times. We can reset the timer. So Scott, if you click on the reset timer, so go up and go to there. So my time should then return to the 2 minutes. So if it's a discussion that's worth maintaining, we don't necessarily have to stop it. If it was in a parliamentary application, it may be that you set a time for a whole party. So if someone uses up the whole 30 minutes, or 25 of the 30 minutes, everyone else has only got 5 minutes to make their point. If it's trying to be very democratic, we should have a similar amount of time for those for and against the motion, so we could then have a balanced debate and vote. So it can be as complicated as you want it to be, but it can also be pretty simple as well. And for most vast applications all around the world, we'll never use more than 40–50% of what the system can do. Well, that's probably the most complicated ones. Most of them will probably use more than 20%.
Can you do an external time code clock with it, trigger it, instead of having it on the screen to go up to a larger display? Because I can see that being, I mean, I've done that in other situations because it's really hard to see that if you're 50–60 feet away, because you don't have to see, you just want to do an external time, orange time code clock to click it down.
Yeah, you can do that. We could set we could probably, I'm not sure if we've got a CDA set up in there right now, but we could do that very simply.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean
and that's not uncommon either. So
No.
you'd have a separate CDA that just shows a big time countdown
Yep.
clock. Yeah.
Could you pull up the display option there, please? I don't think so. Down third from the bottom. No, I don't have the timer on there. One thing we do have on there is if you go to speech time, please. Ben, could you just hit that downstream key for me, please? So you see what we've done on the screen here. We've just made a separate CDA, which is purely just as a name strap, if you like. On this one, we just happen to be able to show up to 4 people speaking or in request mode. So that's just a chroma key over the top.
Yep.
So we can do that. So that is something we wrote ourselves with a bit of bumbling around in the XML. So yeah, the timer is not a problem whatsoever.
And is that positionable too, where you want it on the screen?
We can. You could have up to, I want to say 8, might be 4. But yes, we could do a program. I can run through that with you. So we could position your timer in the top quadrant, your top left. You have your speakers on the top right. You're down the bottom. You've got your mimic, and bottom left, I don't know, the agenda or something like that. So you can then time with whatever other things you need to be plotting out there.
So a couple other things, since we were kind of talking about cameras, as I'd mentioned before, these are IP cameras that go back. They hit the One Beyond camera package. We aren't doing anything with video other than giving the information about what units are being triggered. And then One Beyond takes that information and decides which camera to go to. It's kind of interesting because it'll cut. I don't know if you noticed. Yep. Yeah. And it's doing a 2-shot kind of thing where there might be a primary cut that for just this place, but if that camera has to move, it'll cut to a different one while it gets one in place. So kind of some interesting things there. Ahead of that, or I guess separate to the process, is we do have a video switcher in there for our use, so we can bring various things in and get them switched around. We could have split those things off and have a live person back there doing camera switching. I think for the most part, a lot of the installs for this type of product are probably going to enjoy a more automated kind of experience. Separately also, they interface with our ceiling microphones. If you're familiar with our MXA 910s or the MXA 310s, they use camera decisions based on which lobe we're saying we're activating, the same kind of thing. So lots of other camera packages out there. We're not tied to these guys. They just make it easy for us to interface our systems to it. So the other thing I wanted to tell you is that everything you heard today is true. Not about MXC systems. I would assume you would hope that was true. It's not about this city council meeting was actually true. These were things that we started thinking, how do we demo this live? Let's write something that's lighthearted. You know, we thought we were gonna have to start from scratch. Well, it turns out a Google search for stupid laws gives you endless opportunities. So the Sasquatch thing was Washington and Texas, and the pickle thing was Connecticut. So anyway, is there any other?
Have a full-time pickle bouncer? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if they're still there or not. Oh, let's call up we have an NFC card meeting.
This software's $3 grand, then was that what you showed?
I
mean,
yes, it depends, you know, building.
we bought every single rust proofing, shine and
You would probably
everything
stick another, probably got about 8 grand or something.
And now my microphone works, and you can see my name comes up. You could do overlays the same way as well. The neat thing about this is, of course, if you're running around, again, like maybe you have a council meeting, the structure, and everybody sits in the same place every time, but the fire department comes in tomorrow night, and they sit wherever they want.
Power, I tell you, a small piece of plastic. We've also used printed on these as well. Don't do any sort of thermal printing, so it will melt the air in there, but they can do that. So we've done conferences before. We might use that as an access card as well. It could be the person's photo on there, name of the events, whereas a badge, take it off, plug themselves in, sit down wherever they are, and we can figure out if we want to let them speak or not by their name.
There's also an available, if you don't like the idea of a NFC card, but you want that type of functionality, you can associate pen. So if you want, somebody logs you in, or you log yourself in with the pen.
It can even get to the point, if you wish to, and I can't think for the life of me why you would, if you're the wrong person, the pin is specific to a certain seat, so you always sit in the same seat. If you put your pin in somewhere else, it won't let you sit there. We will force you to do what we want. In certain countries.
You like one-button voting?
It's a Middle East thing.
Yes, King.
Think again and say yes. That's big in Saudi. They like that.
Very good. And so other meetings that we have set up, for instance, just for the ease of this, of having a conversation here, is one that's just kind of for the Americans, right? It's just anybody can turn their mic on and anybody can turn it off. Simple, no login, no nothing required. We call those types of meetings more of a discussion system, an open forum. It's not as structured. That's certainly a corporate kind of thing. You know, corporations love these types of Did we start a new meeting?
You can see that on the screen just up there, just on the left-hand side. We have the speak mode halfway down. So we're currently in manual, but if that was moved to automatic, you would be able to turn your microphone on and off.
Go ahead.
Now, you still need NFC card. 'cause
Oh,
we're an
that's
NFC
right, because we're in an NFC card meeting. Yeah.
But generally you could do that. FIFO, first in, first out. So as you line up in the request queue, someone turns their mic off, you automatically get turned on live, or the Vox mode. So you can just turn yourself on live, which is enabled yet or not, I can't remember. Not for MXCW.
No, it is for MXCW. Oh, it's in the menu.
I know it's on the menu.
Okay.
It's a Danish trick,
Um,
but it's coming. Yeah. You can see we've also got basic controls there on number of microphones open at any one time. Obviously, generally you'd have maximum number of delegate speakers and at least one lower than the total, so at least the chairperson could always interject over. Talking of interjecting, we can see just a bit below that to the right-hand side, the speak interruptibility. So we're suggesting that you should only be able to override someone who is of a lower standing in the conference environment than you. So a chairperson can override a delegate, for instance, if you've reached your maximum number of microphones. If you go for the one beneath that, where you can override someone who's the same or lower than you, basically it's going to be a game of whack-a-mole where people are trying to turn their microphones on to turn the other people off so they can have a chat instead.
Can you create a meeting template? So save the speaker mode, the interruptibility, like as a template for this type of meeting with delegates and everything, and then just, kind of save as with the new agenda?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up because in Software 6000.
Should I do that just now?
Yeah, okay, he's going to. In Software 6000, which is where you build all the building blocks, we actually recommend you do that, specifically even here in the U.S., because a city council meeting is typically the same kind of thing over and over again, but your agenda changes, right? So you have a template meeting and you can just copy that meeting and enter the new information and make that available to run.
Which is a very, very quick example. So we just had our council meeting. We know we've got the same meeting going place next Thursday evening. So before I leave for the evening, I'm going to copy that in, which is this one here. I know that, for instance, I'm not going to be there, but someone else is going to be taking my place. So when I come into my participants table, participants table is my overall delegates. So it might be people who come in once a year or every week. So that'd be everyone going in there. We could start putting a bit more information about them on here.
So again, that could be like city council, parks and rec, fire department, like anybody
Correct.
who needs to have be a participant at any time.
And then because some basic information down here in the bottom left, my meeting mode is in a prepared participant seat table. So the same people will be coming in and sitting in the same locations. That would be where I would have turned on, say, the login using code on a seat or login using a code, whatever way it may be, whether it's an NFC card or a physical 3 or 4 button press. Manual speaking mode is my overriding mode. We could change that to automatic. We want the voting configuration to be 3 buttons, that's fine. We took the speech time configuration based on the participants, what their role is within the meeting. So we've done that. Whenever I change anything, you see I've got this yellow wash across it, this yellow fill, that's remind me to press the update button, otherwise I lose it. So I'm still in that meeting now. I go to my seat table, as I said, let's say Joe's not going to be in the meeting next week, so we're going to take him out, and we're going to stick in Cassie's going to be in the meeting instead. We update that, and we close it. The agenda, for whatever reason, we've decided we don't want to have the pledging of allegiance. It's going to be the national anthem. Again, nice yellow, so update it. Obviously, it wouldn't be proposal 617 and 618, it would be 619 and 620, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. So we've created that new meeting now. That's done. Obviously, I would ideally change the date to next week. But if I do that now, I won't be able to see it. So you'll see it's showing up here, back on in the background on the CUA, the copy of the meeting there. It shows I can access it. If I'd actually had that for tomorrow's date, as an example, it's gone away. So you don't have to have tons and tons of meetings on that for the user getting confused by it. If I change that back just now so we can show it. That's in there. So now I'd go back to, so I've set my meeting up. I've changed a couple of items on it. I stop the meeting we're currently in. So microphones will die as we stop the meeting. The easiest way to do that is you do one or two people, in a, 3 or 4, whatever, in a first setup, export it, and then you know how all your fields are mapped, and you're not trying to make it up and guess, and it's going to the wrong place and stuff. But yeah, you can do that. Before I joined Shaw, I was a customer. I had a rental company out of Dubai, specialising in just this kit and interpretation and stuff. We used to do like 500 people, 1,000-person conferences, stuff at the UN for 2,500 people. So you don't want to type it all in. You want to import it. Yep. Believe me, that's a function I figured out very quickly. So we stopped that meeting. We've now gone into our copy of. So this is our new meeting we're going into. We're preparing it. So the screens should go to tell us to sit down. We start the meeting. We're in the room. I've got my shoes. So Cassie's the person we'd added in to that list. Yeah. We look at the agenda and we can see it's now the national anthem and not the pledge. So it's pretty simple to do. It doesn't have to be complicated. If you've got a template there, you can just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That was that end of that little bit. So if there's, I hope that makes sense. If anyone's got any particular questions, I'm more than happy to go through stuff with you guys.
And that's Windows-specific software, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Has it worked well on some of the Surface tablets with touch?
I used to use Surface, so if I was wandering the floor, just to assist people, particularly in rental world. So if it's in an installation, it's generally going to be the similar sort of people using it time and time again. They get used to it. If it's in a rental world, they might go to a conference 1 day a year, 2 days a year. If we try and get too clever with it, it's just, half of these guys, I wouldn't put them in charge of the remote control at home for the TV. And they're trying to get them to run a meeting off of this. So you've got to sort of bear that in mind a little bit. So I'd wander the floor assisting people if maybe they want to swap out their headphones or something to listen or whatever else. And I'd be walking around with the tablet, listening into the chair. If she's saying we're now going to go to whoever, because maybe that chairperson didn't want to make that decision themselves, I'd have that in one ear, interpretation in another ear, and the headset mic's on to talk to the video guys to say we're next taking camera shot 3 is the good gentleman in the back. If we didn't have automated cameras, I was using the big broadcast ones. So it does work on tablets, yeah. Surface, I found the Surface Pro worked less well than the basic Surface on the original ones. I don't know why. It just, who knows?
If there's no other questions or anything, hopefully this has been somewhat informative and useful for you. I can tell you that if you've had history with DIS, I think it kind of got misrepresented in the sense that partially our fault said, oh, DIS, this thing is amazing. It's used in Parliament and in the UN and all this kind of stuff, and all of us were going, can't remember the last time I did a UN job, where that happens all around the globe way more often. However, plenty of useful applications for this here at corporate, at small city governments, municipalities, all that kind of thing, and with the whole family of products from the DDS 5900 system, which is basic discussion, right, to wireless now. I think there's lots of cool, fun opportunities that, all the way up to this, which is much more structured meeting and all the additional benefits and things that you get with MXC.
Just towards that point, sorry to interrupt. What would people guess would be the?
I'll tell you what. Don't interrupt me again.
Chairman.
Ay dear, give him some power. What happens? An average size for a conference system in the world? Any ideas? Anybody? In terms of number of units or participants?
8.
250.
You're closest. 30.
Really?
Yeah. So if we looked at all the conferences, so I've got a list of old DIS. A list of old DIS installations. There's over 1,500 of these things all around the world. And yes, we've got the great ones. We talk about 3,200 units because it's rare. But 30 units is probably the average. So it doesn't have to be massive systems. And that's the weird thing about this instance here is obviously we're trying to plug and tell you everything it can do, but also not scare the hell out of everybody as well.
So 30, just on a top of the line, high end, 30
Just to be clear, you want to use the wireless system?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna use the wireless system, we're gonna use the gooseneck mic, it's standard, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna use this delegate software, or the MXC
Okay.
software.
Yeah, so there's the catch. MXCW was built from the ground up, and it will be continue to have new features and stuff, but it is not compatible with Software 6000. And it's you don't really intermix any of these systems. 5900 is its own system. MXCW is its own system. This system is its own system. Kind of different, different applications.
We could pass audio if it was maybe a case of you have a fixed installation using MXC, for instance, for, I don't know, 20 people, and every now and then a councillor from the next county along comes along or something, they have to come in twice a year. You could then maybe just have some portable units, the wireless, just so you don't have to be rewiring each time. But that's purely the audio passing between the two, or getting routed through Dante or something. You can't have control of them in the same way. So it could be your 22 people in the room. As far as software is concerned, it's just 20 people in the room.
Back to the special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long term, you should be able to be long term. I'm not promising this at all. We'd like to be able to have the idea of having your main, I don't know, state council, whatever, and then you could have other local city councils log in remotely, and as far as the system's concerned, you've got 50 people in the centre, and however many of 10, as far as the system's concerned, it's 200 people in one meeting. You all vote at the same time, you just don't even see each other. It's then the whole not having to commute, it's saving time, money, everything else. But that's not coming, certainly not this year.
I've got that recorded, so no problem. No problem.
Development will kill me.
Yeah. I would just, I guess the only thing I would add about the average system size, I think in the U.S., we certainly could say 15, 30 units for discussion systems. That's not uncommon at all. There's a lot of higher ed, chancellor's offices, whatever, they run around, and it's 50 people that make decisions about how the school's going to go next year, or whatever, tuition hikes. They love like a 5900 system, where it's simple, it's easy, anybody can set it up, set it out, connect things together, not a big deal. But I think when it comes to more city council, that type of thing, we actually have an example that's a current bid spec for total of 15 units. Only 8 of them have touchscreens, 8 of them have voting capabilities, just the buttons, and then there's a couple of fixed install units that are flush mount. So that's not a large amount of these, systems going in, but it's a full accoutrement of all the software. They need voting, they need display, agenda management, all that stuff. Okay? Thank you very much for coming. We know time is precious, and we certainly are happy that you were willing to spend it with us talking about some new products. If there's anything we can do to help, all you guys that are Chicago-based probably know Scott already. Scott and all of us are part of market development for sure, and we cover different parts of the U.S. He just covers it all, the globe, the whole thing.
Thinly.
Oh, all right.
Not saying I'm thin, not as thin as I want to be.
So please reach out to Scott or to your local rep for Audio Biz for questions. These guys also are well versed. They came yesterday for a full day. Their heads were bleeding when they left, but they got through it. Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
set it up as a mimic and say what does this not do?
Request mode.